conference, College Woman Student Leader, NCCWSL. And last year, we sent a really wonderful, well, they're all wonderful, wonderful College Woman Student Leader. And I have the privilege today, the honor of introducing you to her. Her name is Christina Dunbar, and she is currently a first-year master's student in the School of Informatics at AAUW, studying media arts and science, human-computer interaction, and applied computer science. And we will all have to agree that these are new fields, since many of us were college undergraduates or graduate students. Right now, she's doing research in the School of Informatics Group Psychology and Performance Lab on emotion expression in computer-mediated communication. Now, when she was an undergraduate, she was at Indiana University in Bloomington. But now, as I said, she's at IUPUI. And she says that her best accomplishment there to date has been the founding of the Women in Technology student group. And we really need to congratulate her for that. She's won several awards recently. Undoubtedly, there will be many more to come. I will just tell you about two of them. She is the Amazing Jaguar Award winner. And that's given to a student for their leadership involvement at IUPUI. And leadership is, that award is for engaging fellow students, building community, and demonstrating excellence in practice, and for being an exceptional leader and going above and beyond what's expected. And then there's the John R. Gibbs Fellowship for Innovation. And this has been awarded to her based on her strong academic performance in the graduate program at the IU School of Informatics at IUPUI. And so I think we can take great pride in helping to support such an outstanding college woman student leader. So Christina, we applaud you. Christina to come up and tell us now, make a few comments, and tell us a bit about her attendance at NCCWSL last year.
Hello everyone, good morning, it's still morning. Thank you, Jean, thank you for that wonderful introduction. Start off, I really want to thank, well, there's Chelsea Stouch, who kind of told the women at AAUW Indiana about me. And so I really want to thank Barb Weltnitz, Jean Ammon, Sharon Langlotz, and Barb Cannon for just the continued communication and emails, even since before I went to the conference last year and up until this point, a year later, keeping in touch, and it was a wonderful opportunity. And I really especially want to thank the AAUW Indianapolis branch. Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to go to this conference. So I would like to tell you just a little bit about my experience at NCCWSL, so that's affectionately called, and what came out of that experience. At the conference, I met some wonderful women, amazing students, student leaders that are on campuses all the way from California to Boston. And really what came out of that was the relationships I was able to build with those women. And just sharing our voices and sharing our stories. It was, powerful to kind of get into the, there was a big auditorium, and we all sat there, and we didn't know anyone, and we had this kind of breakout session, icebreakers, and we really were able to identify with each other and realize that we were all going through the same struggles and the same stories. And it doesn't matter our age, it didn't matter our gender, what we were studying, what school we were at, public or private, where we came from, our backgrounds. We all realized that we had this common bond, which was our gender, as women. And so that was, that was kind of one of the great things I could say, is that I met kind of a group of women, and there was a group we kind of all attached to, and I noticed that women, you go to conferences and you kind of find a group of women. But I found this, unique group of women, and we hung out, and we had a great time, and I'm still in touch with those women to this day. The other great thing about the conference was they had a wonderful assortment of over 50 workshops within the few days I was at the conference. And some of the great workshops that were there were really about not only, so at the beginning we kind of shared our voice, and it was about making your voice heard. And that's outside of just this common bond. It's out in the world. It's in the classroom, it's in the workplace, and even on the streets and beyond that, for whatever women want to do, and how we can empower each other. And so some of the workshops for Elect Her, the Elect Her initiative, they had a workshop on that, negotiating pay, networking, and how to build your network in the workplace as a woman. And it's interesting because I was reading an article the other day, and they talked about how as women we're kind of we will tend to, especially they said for younger women, which is interesting, that we'll tend to stay and we won't go to lunch breaks, we won't take the time off of work, we'll in fact feel guilty. And so we overwork ourselves when really it's those opportunities to network and step outside of the office that can sometimes be the most beneficial in us progressing or moving up the ladder in our chosen careers. And also there was workshops on advanced degrees and how, pursuing an MBA, pursuing a PhD, and how that can how that can benefit women as far as in the workplace. Another great part of the NCCWSL conference was the speakers, and they had some amazing speakers. It was just really touching, so many stories, and to hear what these different women have accomplished, and really proves to say that one voice can really make a difference. One of the women, Shelby Knox, she was from a little small town, and pretty much she rallied around this town and some of the issues that were going in the town that were impacting women. Women weren't having their voices heard, and she created or I should say she led this national movement. And she was actually contacted, I don't remember the organization, but she was contacted by a national organization. Shelby, you've been over there rallying, protesting, we want you to lead the movement. And it kind of caught her by surprise, but it just kind of goes to show how one person, you making the difference and doing the things that you're passionate about in your chosen area, can really, set off a revolution. And some of the other interesting topics, which I think are, it's good to talk about the highlights, and it's good to talk about the things. It's also good to talk about struggles and things and what we're going through and those type of things. And a lot of women had their stories and trials and tribulations. And one particular speaker, she talked about the issue of depression and mental illness, and how trying to balance, career and work. And many times women are on the job and they're balancing more things than men, as a mother, as a sister. And so many different things in the roles they play in their community. So that was interesting, and it was good to hear women talk about the stories of depression, how they overcome it, how they're battling it, and to also give, I guess, positive encouragement to women how to get through those struggles and times in your work life and personal life when you hit that low slump, but you still have to maintain balance and hold that presence in the community. Another good point that was brought out by a speaker, Marcia Gensler-Stevens, who's actually coordinated and been over the NCCWSL conference, and she was honored at the Women of Distinction, a Woman of Distinction, and this is a wonderful, wonderful award that they have at NCCWSL. It's given to women who they describe as distinguished based on their advocacy and support of women's issues, and basically kind of trailblazers in their respective fields. And Marcia had a good comment. She said, in order, and I've heard this from several other women, but Marcia said you need to have a good partnership. And she referenced her husband, kind of like Jean, you said about your husband picking out your outfit. Those little things help. But she said you really need that 50-50 partnership. And we know it's never going to be completely 50, but if you can get it as close to that as you can, And she just said the power that her husband had been in her life, pushing her, always saying, you can do it, you can do it. And I don't know if you've heard YouTube videos or anything from Guinea Romedy. She talked about how when she became the president at IBM, she actually second guessed it. And here she is, she's been, executive vice president, at the top of the company for several years. But she doubted herself. And her husband said, she said, I don't know that. He said, go for it. Because, he said, go for it. And we know that women, we kind of underestimate ourselves, and men tend to overestimate their skills. And she said, that, like, we don't need to be too far from that to know. But he said, you can do it. He's like, you can learn a few things and you're going. And that push, and it was from, her husband. So as women progress and go through their career, that's an important part of the puzzle, is having a partner in life that is there to support you. And so that was one of the really great take-homes I got from that experience. And so along with that, there were some other great speakers. Lisa P. Jackson of the Environmental Protection Agency talked about how this little story about her mother in New Orleans, and how she didn't think that she could make an impact on that situation. Because sometimes when you're progressing up the ladder and you're at home and you might have problems with your family, or they might be going through struggles, if you can't help them in that immediate situation, it might be looked at as a failure. But she talked about how after Hurricane Katrina, how the power of the legislation that she was able to impact as a leader in the Environmental Protection Agency actually ended up helping her mother and the whole community with rebuilding houses. So it's those amazing things. Do what you're passionate about. And we also heard from Connie Chung, journalist, talking about her amazing career and some of the struggles she's been through as a journalist, as a leading journalist. And then there was Natalie Randolph, who was a high school teacher in DC, and was at a really kind of troubled school that was having a lot of changes and transitions, but they needed there was a young boys football team, and they needed a coach. She stepped up to the plate and became the coach. And because of that, she's so funny if you meet her. But because of that, she's been able to positively impact these young men. In addition to that, she's a science teacher. So she's been pushed. She helps them with their homework, their tutoring after practice. She's been able to, those type of stories really touch my heart. But she's been, she's there all day, 80-hour weeks, working with these boys, helping them really strive and become better students and community members. And then there's also the story of Swanee Hunt, and you might be familiar with Swanee. And she has done so much advocating for women, and she's a professor at Harvard University. But she gave a really touching story about the work she's done in Yugoslavia and Bosnia. And she talked about the women and how they were able to forgive the young men that had killed their families. And it's that type of compassion. I'm sorry, but you cannot get that with any other gender but women. So to have that type of compassion. So to say all that, I want to say that pave your path where your passion is. And in the words of Gloria Steinem, within any audience, there is enough anger, skill, and humor to start a revolution. And I paraphrase that to say, within any audience of women, there is enough anger, skill, and humor to start a revolution. So what came out of that? What came out of all this? I was already working with Women in Technology. We were founded in fall of 2010, along with two other graduate students like myself. And because of that movement and that initiative, we heard about another student group down in Bloomington that had a Women in Technology group. We said, why don't we have one? Well, we want one here. And so we gathered together, we strategized, we went to meet with administrators, deans, and other students. And we now have over 230 members at any time. And these are women from all walks of life. I don't know if you're familiar with IUPUI campus, but we have a very diverse student body. We have women that are returning, non-traditional students returning, that have families. We have the traditional students who work full-time. and we have women that are just doing their graduate studies. So it has been an amazing thing to see that these women from all these different programs, because we really were just women in technology, but we have served women in every program on campus because they were looking for a place to unite and build a network and have a place to share their voice and share their stories. And so, in addition, we've gone to Grace Hopper and we've gone to Indiana Women in Computing Conference, Regional Conference in Bloomington. And we've also started doing a lot of outreach, working with STARS, which is Students in Teaching for Academia and Research, going out into some of the local area high schools and connecting with the youth and doing STEM-related workshops. So I want to close this out. Again, I really appreciate that experience. It's been great. And I think that, you know, the impact that can be made from going to that event, to that Nick Whistle, and for women just rallying and sharing their voices is like we can start a revolution. And so thank you very much for listening to me speak today. And there's also a display board that I have out in the hallway with some pictures from the conference from Nick Whistle. Thank you.